All right, was an exciting day. I know it's, compared to Christmas sometimes, they just keep moving Christmas up on us. We're 2 weeks earlier than we've ever been. But really this class has come together over the course of the last year, year plus probably, really starting to focus on our 25s going back to January. This past January was the first time that we could visit with juniors on their turf, so to speak, but more so it was getting guys to campus, starting back to January, and then as we went through the spring, getting guys to come on campus during the summer, come to camps. We did our first summer official visit back in June, and then we followed it up with, I think 3 really productive official visit weekends during the course of the season. So, I can't begin to thank our staff for their efforts enough. There's a lot that goes into putting a recruiting class together, and it has to start with effort, but it also has to start with guys understanding it's about us signing the best class possible, not any particular individuals doing that. And you got to remove your ego. You got to be able to go through a process of which is really important to us. We are not a fly-by-night operation when it comes to evaluation. Any and every chance we can get to evaluate a young man, not only athletically, but then who they are as a person, we take full advantage of. So that is, many hours logged, watching video, but also, going into schools, learning more about all these individuals, the putting them through the paces for the guys that we had at camp, and then when we do bring guys to campus, it's considerable effort from our staff, from our families. I think we have a great opportunity to sell here at Montana State and in Bozeman, and generally speaking, if we can get guys to come here and get a chance to really feel what we're all about, we're going to have a pretty successful recruiting situation. So, the makeup of this class, going in, we had the opportunity for it to be, a fairly complete class, a large class, a comprehensive class, whatever word you want to put to it. Really, by saying that, all positions were going to get recruited, and we were going to have plenty of opportunity, and there's reasons for that. Certainly the large senior class that we have creates spots, it creates opportunity. But continuing to recruit high school guys and build from the ground up has very much to do with the guys that we have that will be returning. I think a lot of different ways to go about recruiting in this day and age. There's a complete portal. There's kind of this mixed version, and then there's schools like us, programs like us that really want to be heavy high school and really develop our guys. And it's not to say we won't ultimately, bring a transfer or 2 in this cycle, but to this point, we can make it about our high school guys, and again, have it be a really complete, comprehensive class. And that number of 24 starts with our 10 Montana guys that signed with us today, and beyond the obvious that our success starts with that group. I think you look at our current roster, the guys that play for us, the guys that were named all conference, that's heavy on the Montana native side, and I think there's some factors there. It's certainly the understanding of the opportunity that they have to stay in their home state. I hope the admiration they have for our program, our ability to develop guys, and that's a big part of a Montana native, is there's going to be development that's going to likely have to occur, whether that's size, technique, you name it. Our Montana guys are generally guys that play 2-3 sports, that haven't been just focused on football. We're in part of the world where football is a fall sport here. It might dip into the summer a little bit, but it's a fall sport. It's not a year-round sport here, and that's okay. Guys that go out and play basketball in the winter, that wrestle, that are part of track and field, whatever it might be, baseball, that's all stuff that we really are looking for, multi-sport guys, and then you flip that around, multi-position guys. So that group of 10, is the foundation of this class, just like, our 40 46, 47 guys on this current roster are the foundation of our roster. Beyond those 10, we were able to sign 14 out-of-state guys today, and where we recruit is similar. Where our recruits come from might be similar, but it's not always the same from year to year. I know that big number from Washington continues to grow with 5 more in this class, a couple more from Idaho, a couple more from Texas, and then getting a guy from Minnesota for the first time in a few years was really exciting. A couple specialists, one from Utah, one from Arizona. A quarterback that took a different path, but he's from Oklahoma. So again, that footprint that we continue to recruit is similar, but then where ultimately the guys come from, and, kind of takes on its own form each year. So with that, I'll go through all the guys and probably say a few things about them. I know we have the social media graphic and highlights that will be behind me, so hopefully I navigate this correctly. First off, Xavier Aarons from Curtis High School in Washington. Really a guy that, as the process began this fall, our opportunity to get him became more apparent. And he wasn't a guy that we had on campus here until an official visit early in the fall. But we see him as a linebacker, but Xavier's just a football player. Played receiver for them at Curtis, and they were a successful team out there. Big, physical, 6'2", 210, can run, can hit, was really good with the ball in his hands too. So we just see him as a dynamic athlete, football player that will transition, really being the type of linebacker that can play downhill and be physical, but then also can play sideline to sideline. So really excited about Xavier. Josiah Azuga is the next one up, 6'4", 298. The hallmark of this team is our ability to be physical and be big, strong, athletic, all those things, both in the O&D line. And Josiah is that. He played offense and defensive line at South Kitsap, just outside of Tacoma, and he looks the part. I know he was a highly sought-after guy as the season went along. Made plays on both sides of the ball. We see him absolutely as a defensive lineman, and to bring a guy like him with his size and athleticism is certainly something that we're looking for, and we're really excited to bring Josiah into the program. Malachi is a guy that's been on our radar for several years. I think really came onto the scene as a sophomore. Really liked him in the summer between his sophomore and junior years at camp, and I think has continued to evolve. He played more defense this year, lined up at receiver. We see him, kind of as his true position has been at running back, but I like the fact that he became more versatile this year, and really, again, I think is a good football player first and foremost. I do think he's a guy that will continue to develop. Just through these years, he's really smooth, really athletic. His speed has continued to develop, and I'm really excited to add Malachi to that running back room here this next year and watch him take all those skills and focus in at that spot. But obviously we use our running backs in a lot of different ways. So excited for Malachi to get it, to get it over here to Bozeman. Carter Coquet is the next one up, 6'3", 228-pound tight end. He's out of Sumner. They're still playing. They're in the state championship this coming weekend. Really like Carter going back, early in the process, what his junior film looked like. He's a guy that I think Coach Mix had a really good relationship with. Sam had played with Carter's brother up at MSU Northern, and really developed a strong bond there. Carter's a guy that I think attracted a lot of attention as the summer and the fall went on. Obviously being on a team like he has, but beyond that, just how he's played and how we like to utilize our tight ends to bring in two really talented guys, in this class was an opportunity that we had, and one that we definitely jumped at. I think Carter's athletic, he's physical, he's all the things that we're looking for, has the good length. Next up, Marcus Coleman, the second, a cornerback out of Klein Kane down in Houston. Getting a little bit more length at the cornerback position was important. He's just probably a shy under 6 foot. He really had a great senior year, and you'll see we have two Klein Kane teammates that are coming, and they were independent recruiting opportunities. I think Marcus really emerged as the season went along. Physical, really good with the ball. When the ball is in the air as far as playing it. He really looks like a smart, well-coached football player at this time. So, all those attributes, the aggressiveness, the size that we're looking for, the competitive nature at the position. He's a really good baseball player as well. And I think he's definitely a guy that needs to put some weight on, but that's, I think, something that we see as a natural thing that's going to occur over the next stretch of time. Carter Kernow out of Dillon is the next one up. I think we saw Carter as a junior, over there at Dillon, being clearly one of the best guys as a junior in the state. Was a part of a state championship football and basketball team as a junior, and he's just continued to hone his skills. Played offense and defense for them. I think really had a phenomenal year. Had a season-ending injury in that last game, and that was maybe part of the reason they went down in the quarterfinals. He meant that much to his team. I've had a chance to see him play basketball a little bit, and he's a force on the basketball court as well. So a lot of those things as a tight end that you're looking for, Carter possesses, and to get the two Carters, I think really bolstered our tight end room today. Next up is Blaine Downing. Blaine's out of Saco, but played his high school football through a co-op in Malta. They just won a state championship. Blaine, out of the Montana guys, was a guy that probably got on our radar a little bit later than most. Has a decorated track background, pole vaulting, runs, jumps, all those things. So he's got a lot of the small town attributes, good basketball player as well, and then really took off on the football field this year. And we look at Blaine to play defensive end. He can really run. He was a running back. He returned kicks. He blocked. He rushed the passer. He played some linebacker. And it became clear to us out of all those skills, his ability to rush the passer was the one that really caught our eye probably the most, and I think it's the thing he likes to do the most as well. So really look forward to him. Another small town. He's from a Class C school but played Class B football to be that next in line. Mason Deathman, Bryce Grebe, Trayton Pickering, those guys coming out of those small towns that really come in here and done some great things. Next up, Cash Embry, right here in Bozeman. Cash played quarterback for the Hawks this year, was a receiver DB on last year as a junior on their state championship team. Also a really good basketball player, plays the point for the Hawks, and he's a guy that has just probably scratched the surface, I think, as far as what he can become on the football field. Really good athlete, really good quickness, awareness, all those things, good ball skills. Incredibly competitive, and it's all those ingredients that we feel like are going to allow him to take what he has and have it become, quite frankly, something different down the road. And we see receiver as that initial fit for him. Colby up next, out of Roy. Colby's our punter in this class. Really excited about Colby and what he can do. I know. Bringing a punter in, replacing Brendan, potentially as a punter and a kickoff guy, was going to be something that we needed to do in this class. Colby was a guy we had in camp this summer, and it was clear that if we could get Colby, he would be that guy. He went on to have a phenomenal season for Roy. They were runners-up down in Utah. Semifinals, he had a 51, I think, and a 58-yarder in that game. So he obviously place kicked for them as well. So, nothing's beyond what he could be able to do. He's a really good athlete, really good basketball player as well. So just like his mental makeup as far as what he brings to the table. Again, we look for him to absolutely be our punter next fall, and whatever else he might be able to do from a kickoff, place kicking standpoint, I think is still on the table. Next up, Hayden Gunlock, Rocky Mountain down in the Boise area, Meridian, Idaho. Hayden's a guy that had a really good junior year, caught a lot of attention out of his junior year, had an off-season injury that kind of lingered through the course of the summer, so he wasn't much for a camp, even spring eval type of guy. But I think we really felt good about his ability to run. He ultimately got back this year and had a real good senior year. We see him as a strong safety, free safety type, not afraid to hit, moves real well. and our position flexibility in that back end at those safety positions is really critical. And, also see Hayden as a guy that is tough, competitive. Really looking forward to get Hayden in the program. Next up, Max Hendrick. Again, Klein Kane. We got 2 guys out of that school. Max was a guy that jumped on our radar pretty quickly this fall at the receiver position, and he had an amazing year. I think at one point, and they've run out of games because they've been eliminated for a few weeks. He led the state of Texas in receiving yards. Just think about that for a second, what that means. So used him in a lot of different ways, whether it was handing the ball, screens, down the field. Very versatile guy, very physical guy. Also talking about multi-sport, a really good basketball player, and that doesn't happen all too often where you can play that combination and really be successful down in a place like Texas. So, really excited about all the things that Max brings to the table, and maybe his competitive nature being at the top of the list. Next up, Brody Johnson, long snapper out of the Phoenix area, Liberty High School. They're also playing for a state championship this weekend, so excited for Brody and his teammates. Just like the punting / kickoff job, the long snapping job is opening up with Tommy graduating this year. And anytime you have a guy like Tommy, you don't have to think about it for a few years. But obviously, we did in this recruiting cycle. Brody, like Colby, was at our camp this summer, and he was the guy that we identified that if we could sign him, we'd want to do that. And fortunately, we were able to get those two as a tandem. And I having those guys even come back on the same official visit was important because beyond the obvious that they'll have to work together. And Brody has good length. He's a really good defensive player for a really good team down there. So he long snaps, but is also a really good football player. So we like that combination of what Brody's going to bring, and feel like in both those guys they have not only the ability but the maturity to come in and punt and long snap for us day one, which that's a pretty tall task. Next up, Shanko Kornichuk out of the Portland area, Lake Ridge High School. Shanko actually moved from Bozeman out to Oregon after his 8th grade year. So getting back to the potential of going to Montana State and getting back to Bozeman was something that I think excited him. Running back safety for a really good team out in the Portland area. I think he's got a bunch of room to grow. We really like his speed, his slashing ability. I think he's got a really good upside. Pretty lean right now, but I think a guy that we can definitely put some weight on. Parker Mady is next up, right wide receiver. Also Curtis High School, just like Xavier in the Tacoma area. Parker's a guy I know that Coach Mix saw him in. Who would it have been? He saw play last year. He saw him play when we were playing another one of our recruits last year. Jabez. It was Jabez Woods out of Graham Kapowson, and he felt like Jabez was the best one, but Parker wasn't too far behind. And really, since then, Parker's been a target for us. I had a really good year in all ways. Really good receiver, return guy, safety. Just again, a good football player, highly, highly competitive, and to be able to add 2 highly competitive guys, Parker and Max, that receiver room. I think we really hit a home run with those two. Parker's got a lot of flexibility to play inside and out, and just tough as nails, and a really skilled receiver at that. So excited to get Parker and Xavier. So as to go to 2 different places, both to the Tacoma area and the Houston area, and get a couple teammates was really exciting for us. Anyways, really like who Nick is as far as just our type of guy to play on the inside, to play in that interior and just be able to move guys, to be able to also just be athletic enough to do all the things that we ask out of our interior offensive linemen. Luke Oxerart is next, a DB out of Jefferson County High School. Luke's a guy that has been on our radar, teammate of Dalton Noble from last year. Had played quarterback for them in Dalton's senior year, Luke's junior year. Moved to running back this year. Both years we really saw him as this impressive defensive player. Also really good as far as track and field goes. He's just shy as a smaller guy to be a 50-foot shot type of guy, so he's explosive, also a really good sprinter. Ran really well in camp, and then he followed all that up with a great senior season. And he played running back for them, so was all over the field as far as his production as a running back, but then more so just his ability as a safety to cover ground. We really saw, our type of guy, a guy that could potentially come in and play that strong safety position that Rylan Orr plays, very similar body type to Rylan. Next up, Grayson Snyder. Grayson hails from Stewartville, Minnesota, which is just south of the Twin Cities. We had an opportunity to get our foot in the door. It's a school that I'm familiar with. One of my college roommates, in fact, is a coach there. So we got familiar with Grayson, got his intrigue lifted in the off season, and got him out for an official visit in the summer. And we're able to have him cross over a bunch of schools to ultimately make Montana State his choice. And like Josiah, I think he adds an immediate guy that can be the type of guy on the inside, on the defensive side that we're looking for. Extremely athletic at the 6'3", 255, can really run, and is extremely explosive at the point of attack, but then his ability to pursue and just go after it showed up week after week, and they ultimately won a state championship a few weeks back in the state of Minnesota. So really excited to get Grayson out here. I know we've had some really good players, Ty Okada, Lewis Kidd in particular out of Minnesota, and we want to keep going over there and seeing what we can bring across a couple states out here to Montana. Vinny Souza is next up, Billings Central. Vinny, out of his junior year, was one of the guys we certainly identified as a top guy, had a really good junior year at Billings Central, and we see him as a linebacker, even though he played kind of receiver corner for them as a junior. He comes over and really did a good job at camp this summer, and he was one of the early ones to commit. Unfortunately for Vinny, he had a season where he was pretty beat up. Ultimately, they went on to win a state championship, and he had a stretch where he really contributed well, was able to put on some good weight, become more of that linebacker size. But we really see a bright future with his combination of the size, athleticism, his ability to play sideline to sideline at that linebacker position, and really excited about what Vinny brings to the table in all ways. Next up, Tommy Springman from right here in Bozeman, Gallatin High School. Tommy's a guy that continued to develop through the course of his career. Obviously, my ties to Gallatin and having a chance to see Tommy over the years and has been part of the deal. But, he went from a guy that probably played behind Josh Woodbury quite a bit as a junior to then really emerging and having a great senior year. And he first caught our eye at camp this summer, and the ability to run, ability to be physical was there. And, he's just scratched the surface, I think, on what he can become. We still have him listed as a tight end linebacker. I think there's some flexibility with that decision still moving forward, but really excited to bring a guy like Tommy in that we feel like his upside is there. Intense competitor. He's starting to wrestle right now, and obviously I had a chance to watch him a lot this fall. I was at 10 of the 11 Gallatin games watching Grant, and he continued to impress me week after week. So really excited to keep Tommy home and have him become a Bobcat. Nate Thornton is up next, North Kitsap, again in that Seattle-Tacoma area. Really felt like he flashed as a junior, so he was a priority for us. We got him over to Bozeman, got him to camp, and I think it became clear, hey, if there's any way we can get Nate into this program, we got to do it. And he's got that body type at 6'4", almost 280, where we're playing guard or tackle is definitely in the cards, and so he's probably a guy we see at tackle, incredibly athletic for his size, finishes blocks. As an offensive lineman, I think he was the MVP of their league, so I know that kind of speaks to just who he is. And he's another guy like a bunch of these guys are, where not only was it our football program, but our engineering school really made it attractive for him, and super excited to bring Nate into the program. Next up, Grant Vigen. Beyond the obvious, my son and all that, but seeing him develop in playing the position he plays, it isn't that simple that he's my son. I think what we saw in Grant was a guy that has really good length, really good throwing ability. Has been able to put together 2 years at Gallatin where that's been on display. And, at the same time, I think we feel like, he's got a lot of upside and a lot of potential that's out in front of him. I think the basketball season that he had last year, certainly showed a combination of his skills as well. And, like the success that he's been involved with at the Gallatin program as a quarterback, and then also, on that state championship team. And, my genes are maybe one thing, but my wife's genes are probably what are the key to that whole thing. So excited to get Grant in and see what he can do. River Warren is next up. I know as we went through the process, River became a guy that became a point of interest early in the summer. And, River's a unique situation where fairly well decorated in Oklahoma, a guy that had a bunch of opportunities as a 24 grad, meaning offers and such. I think nature of recruiting honed in on a couple things that didn't quite pan out, and then ultimately, some of the other things he had gone away. I think stepped away a little bit from the recruiting process back this time last year. Continued to go to work. Had intended on going to prep school, and ultimately, our paths were able to cross in the middle of that. And in River, we got a unique situation of a guy that I think was highly recruited and for good reason. Is really talented, is a good athlete. Had a lot of success in the Tulsa area at a couple different schools, Bishop McGuinness and then Del City, and is extremely intelligent. And I know the fact that he can be here mid-year starting in January was the attractive piece. Ultimately being able to insert him into the competition here out of this season is our intention, and I think that was attractive to River as well. So excited to get him up here in January and see how that all fits together, how fast it can come together. So Ben is a guy that we've been tracking. He's been a 4-year starter at Glacier, and every time you go up there, okay, just this winter's kid is coming. He's he's going to be something, and he continued to get bigger and bigger as that time went on, and he still maintained a ton of athleticism. Really like the demeanor that Ben has. He's going to be an interior guy for us, but he's already at that size where we need to develop him, obviously, and all that. But like what he brings to the table, just that size and athleticism, toughness, all that, and he's going to be a guy that plays hoops this winter as well. So, and he demonstrates some athleticism there. So really excited about Ben. And finally, Von Werkus, Von out of Helena Capital. Von, different body type than Ben, but I think out of his junior year, we felt like, here's a guy that has the tools, has the length, has the athleticism, the toughness. He flashed as a junior. I think when we had him in camp this summer, it became apparent that he was beyond kind of that flash stage. And then he had a really good year. And obviously they won the state championship a few weeks back, and he was a huge part of that, both on the O and D line. He's just, I think, begun to tap into his potential, but just again, like his demeanor, his toughness, his athleticism, all the way around. So excited about this group. A lot of versatility, and with that, I'll open up to whatever questions we might have. Yep.
I was just
catch my breath. No, I'm good.
With now having 2 sons in the program, I guess how important was that for you, and just how special or how meaningful is it to have that opportunity?
Yeah, there's 2 sides to that. There's the coach at Montana State, and there's the dad, and to some degree separating that, recruiting Grant for Grant's ability and Grant's sake, and also as a dad wanting him to, be able to get the best opportunities possible, and thankfully, wearing both those hats, it came together here, and I think, looking at Jake's experience, Jake came here to Bozeman and it was going to be a high school senior, and what this place, not only Gallatin and then now Montana State, is meant to him and the experience he's having. To have a second son now, you'll be able to go 4 years at Gallatin and now join our program. I think as parents, Molly and I are blessed for that situation, and I again, as a coach, seeing it from that perspective, I think Grant's got all kinds of potential, and playing that position isn't easy. But I look forward to what that's going to look like in a couple years, because I know he's going to work hard and chase after it.
I'll ask another one. Some of these recruiting rankings are obviously tough to judge, and I don't know if you look at that closely at them, but a lot of Montana guys, a lot of highly rated Montana guys. So, what is that like? I mean, I know that it's an important thing, but to be able to get so many of those top Montana guys, how important?
Hey, that's when we talk about that rivalry, it's an everyday affair, and how you ultimately win that game in November is made on days like this, when you can win that recruiting battle, and it has to play out. Just because it looks a certain way today doesn't mean it's going to be that way, but we feel really good about it. So, getting those guys here multiple times through the course of the calendar year, was our strategy, and we really appreciate, those guys coming here in January. In many cases coming to a game when they were juniors in the fall, coming back in the spring for another visit to continue to learn more about us, to come to camp. And that camp piece, I think, isn't a one-sided affair. Yeah, obviously we get a chance to look at them, but they get a chance to really evaluate how we coach and how we communicate and all those things. And I think this group, that we set out to get, we all intents and purposes got, and again, they need to come in here and they need to continue to be that next wave of in-state guys that really build on this really solid foundation that we have with in-state guys, because there's no doubt that winning the in-state recruiting battle is going to be a key component to those games down the road. These guys maybe won't factor in much the next year after that, but 3-4 years down the road, these are going to be the guys we're talking about.
You mentioned a couple of those guys having season-ending injuries. I guess what are those conversations like with those guys? Reassurance, or just that?
Yeah, I think about Carter Kernow, who was a really good basketball player too, and we had a conversation that next week, and he's got a situation where he can rehab and play his hoop season, and we'll see where it goes from there. And I encourage him to do that. You're only a high school athlete once, and for him to be able to have that, his senior year of basketball, or at least go after it, is something that was important to us. I know in Vinny's case, felt bad for him. I mean, I think he was poised to have an amazing year for an amazing team, and he didn't probably have the amount of games to contribute like he'd hoped, but I'm certain through that he was a key factor in their state championship team. So I think any injury that occurs through the recruiting process, you got to, I think, take it in, but ultimately these guys are going to heal up. They're young, and what we're gonna want is a couple years down the road. So in most cases, we can work through those injury situations, and by the time they get to us, they're going to be on the right side of that.
You mentioned the territories that each coach kind of has in years past, but anything in particular maybe changed or you honed in on with some new staff members this year?
I think we've continued to have Bobby Daly lead the charge in Montana, but I think more and more of us have got involved, and I think in particular the impact that Al Johnson had with the 2 linemen. I know he was very involved with them. Sam's continued to be the Washington recruiter, and again gaining on his familiarity, his ability to go out there and evaluate and communicate has been tremendous. I think in Texas, we've continued to evolve there. Bringing in Jody, a Texas native, being able to recruit down there and be part of those conversations, whether a kid's coming from Dallas, Fort Worth, or Houston, it really doesn't matter. They're coming from Texas up to Montana, and he can really tell his story. I know Coach Nick John Baptiste has, continued to do a great job identifying guys in Houston that, can make it up here, not only make it, but really thrive. So, yeah, we've moved a few people around. I know, instance like this year where our recruiting specialist, Marcus Monaco, was a big part of that. We really hadn't had that type of thing the last couple of years. So similar, but some different roles. But everybody's kind of involved with everybody. I think that's the best way I could put it.
Moving this signing day up 2 weeks, what's that dynamic like? How does that kind of compare, contrast to?
Yeah, I think it just you gotta continue to self-evaluate. Does that mean we need to do things a little faster? Because we would not have the benefit of really utilizing December as an opportunity to go out or to bring guys in. So, yeah, I think where it accelerated some things is we did a summer official visit, and we had 6 guys in, all 6 of those guys committed. And I think it really prioritized those opportunities we had for Gold Rush, the Idaho game. I know we had 4 for the Sac State game, and really trying to get these guys to campus so they can make a decision prior to this signing day versus us having to hold on and try to do whatever we could in December. So I think it's just moved some things up, but it hasn't lessened our detail. And the one thing we can't do is all of a sudden think we need to make fast decisions just for the sake of making fast decisions. So we're still very particular, but it has moved some things up, in particular with our efforts to get guys here.